Let's try. Okay. Hello, Namaskaram. Namaskaram to Veda Parishad. Sridhar, can I hear like that? Oh, okay. Namaskaram to Veda Parishad. Welcome you all. Dhanyosmi for joining the Veda Parishad virtual session today. And Veda Parishad has been created almost 4 months ago with the guidance of Sriman Kapriji, who's one of the well-known and popular Rigveda Panditas, Ganapatis. In October, we started Veda Parishad. It was an opportunity for all the Veda Abhimanis to gather once a month to do Veda Chintanam, talk about Vedam, discuss, and as well as learn from each other. That was actually the intention, and bringing all the Veda Abhimanis to the floor so that we can be able to learn together collectively. So this is our virtual session. Today we have we invited a guest, and so it's an honor to have Sriman Sridharji. And Venkatji is going to invite and as well as introduce Sriman Sridharji. Venkat, you take it.
Hari Om. Namaskaram, everyone. Thank you, Srinivasji, for creating this platform for all the Veda Abhimanis in the Greater Seattle area, and also for the opportunity to be able to meet virtually and still participate. I want to take a quick moment to introduce Sridhar Iyer. So, Sridhar Iyer is based out of the Greater Seattle area. He has a lot of knowledge in the Vedas, and he has done Adhyanam in the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda Śākhā. And he has been working on his own on a project on how to enable the Vedic learning in an online world, considering all the current challenges that we have. So, Sridhar has been very active in all the activities related to Vedam and Veda chanting, events like Aruna Prashtha Parayanam and Mahanya Surya Shudram and Udaya Shanti Parayanam and many other events. So without further delay, I would like to welcome Sridhar Iyer on all your behalf and on behalf of the Veda Parishad to take over and then share the details of the work that he has been doing on. Welcome, Sridhar.
Thank you, Venkatji, and thank you, Srinivasji, for the invitation to this forum. Very happy to be here. Srinivasji, can we start with the slides? Ajnānatimirandhasya jnānāñjana shalakaya chakshurunmīlitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Jnānānandamayam devam nirmalas phatikākritam ādhāram sarvavidyanām hayagrivam upasmahe. There is a very beautiful story in our tradition. So at the end of a cosmic cycle, there are two asuras, Madhu and Kaithava. And they stole the Vedas from Brahma as he slept, and they hid them in the depths of the cosmic ocean. This is representative of all the knowledge going away and leading to ignorance and darkness. But without the Vedas, the creation itself cannot proceed, because the Vedas are the blueprint of the universe. It is the breath of the Paramatma, is what we say. So Vishnu took the form of Hayagriva, the horse-headed avatar of Vishnu that many times we talk about, the one who is radiant as a pure crystal, and the embodiment of Jnana itself, and dove into the ocean and defeated Madhu and Kaithava and retrieved the Vedas for everybody and restored them to Brahma so that creation and the cycle of creation can continue. This is why we worship Hayagriva as the Adharam Sarvavidyanam. Hayagrivaha Sarvavidyanam Adharaha. That is, Hayagriva is the foundation of all knowledge itself. And so it is not just about fighting a battle and retrieving the Vedas. It is rescuing knowledge from going into oblivion. And that is also what, in a very, very humble way, is also our job here to do. that we have to keep this knowledge alive in the way that we can. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad vadati asya mahato bhutasya nishvasitam yetat yad rigvedo yajurveda samavedaha iti. Vedaha paramatmanaha uttvasha nishvasaha. Tasya Vedaha paramatmanaha pranaswarupaha. Vedaha anadayaha. Vedaha apaurushyaha. Etateva sanatana dharmasya mahima. Yete Vedaha shrishतेः आदौ prakatitaha. Tasmat गुरुशिष्य परंपरया अनेक कोटि सहस्र वर्षाणि यावत् अखंडित रूपेण रक्षिताः. अस्माकं पूर्वजाः केवलं शब्दान् न अरक्षन्. अस्माकं पूर्वजाः अपि तु ज्ञानस्य दीपं प्रज्वलितं कृत्वा पीढीं पीढीं प्रति अयच्छन्. वयं सर्वे अस्यां परंपरायां जन्मं प्राप्तवन्तः. वयं सर्वे धन्याः स्मः. अद्य अस्माकं कर्तव्यं किम्? अस्माकं कर्तव्यं एतत् अमूल्यं ज्ञानम् आधुनिकयुगे अपि यथार्थरूपेण संस्कर्ष्य आगामिपीढीभ्यः समर्पयेम इति. एतदेव अस्माकं कर्तव्यम्. Our job, and I'm very glad to be part of this great set of people, is to preserve the interest and preserve the accuracy and preserve the greatness of this great corpus of knowledge that we have been given for thousands and thousands of years. And this is, and what I'm going to talk about is actually a very small step that I have taken that I would like all of your help on in order to do the same thing. Thousands of other people have done the similar things, and this is my small contribution to the same effort. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we can actually enable the Vedic learning in an online world. So for thousands and thousands of years, the Vedas have been protected through Guru Parampara, Guru Shishya Parampara, and it is the world's oldest living oral tradition. However, what has happened in the last so many hundreds of years is that Indians of various sampradayas have actually gone apart from India, and then they have settled in other places like we are in the United States here. And as this happened, the Vedic corpus has also gotten hard to be accessible. Gurus are still teaching Shishyas, and in Veda Parishadas, Vedic learning happens orally. However, a lot of the knowledge these days is going online. And so many people have taken up this effort of putting up all this knowledge online in the form of PDF documents, in the form of audio recordings, and in the form of websites. But as we all know, the Vedas are not just prose. The Vedas also have intonation. That's what separates the Vedas from regular Sanskrit text. So for those of you who may be slightly new to the Vedas or who are yet learning, I may repeat something that is duplicative to those of you who already know the Vedas, that the Vedas have multiple swaras. For example, you could say, Namaste Rudramanyava, which is a very, which are just the words. But if you say the same thing, if you look at the same thing in the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda, it says, Namaste Rudramanyava, which means that there is intonation in every one of these words. So it becomes very important to preserve not just the accuracy of the words themselves, but also the accuracy of the intonation, because without the intonation or the swaras, the Vedas should not even be repeated, which is the first thing that every Vedic teacher will tell their disciples when they go to learn the Vedas. And so as the Vedas have found themselves on the internet, which is today the way that everybody accesses information, there have been many problems. Despite the intent that people have had to actually do the same thing that I'm trying to do here, text actually becomes inaccurate over time. You have a corpus of information that goes in, and there are some mistakes in some padams or some words, or some swaras, but there is no reliable single source. Many of these documents are in terms of PDFs, which we have all accessed over time. I'm sure that everybody on this channel have accessed these PDFs over time. And we find ourselves that there are many mistakes in these PDFs. We are also not all familiar with the same lipi or the same writing script, which is Devanāgarī. Or many of us learn it in Devanāgarī, some of us learn it in Grantha, some of us learn it in Kannada lipi or Telugu or other languages, all of which are capable of representing most of the sounds of the Vedas. But some of these PDFs, not all of these PDFs are in all of these languages. And that is also a barrier in accessing this language and accessing this corpus of information and learning from it. And there is no good correction mechanism either. So people who have uploaded these Vedas, in online sources, do not have many ways of getting them corrected. They send them to Vedic Pandits, and the Vedic Pandits send back correction information. But there is no good way to sort of make sure that all of it is always correct and accessible to everybody all the time. And of course, these things have not fully come into modernity. Now, those of us in this channel who are on the software engineering side, we know that this problem has been solved in the software side. There is versioning, there is a CI/CD pipelines and structured data, which basically is another way of saying that we know how to take a piece of information and keep it centrally accessible, allow the community to make changes to that piece of information, but still maintain the accuracy and the fidelity of this information. But this has not trickled over to how we store and preserve one of the most precious repositories of knowledge that India has, which is the Vedas. So in some sense, you can think of the work that I have been trying to do with the help of many other people is to sort of bring two and put two and two together. How can we bring the benefits of the modern architecture in software that we know exist and take this corpus of information, which has been around for thousands and thousands of years, and put them together in order to create the world's perhaps the most collaboratively curated, freely accessible digital corpus of information, which is the Vedas, but in a way that is very accurate, in the way that is multi-script, so people can learn in any language or any lipi that they want, and then in a way that is very modern. So those were the goals of what I started with, and this came from my own experience in trying to learn the Vedas. My guru, who's teaching me the Vedas, learned himself in the Grantha, which I don't know. But when I tried to look at Devanāgarī sources online, there were many, many sources online that people with great intentions have put together, but everything suffered from some error or the other. And so I thought, if I have this problem, then many other people might have the same problem. And that's why I started this effort about 9 or 10 months ago. So the main goals that we have are accuracy, which is how can we get somebody who is an expert to review this information, version control it, put corrections, so that these corrections are now then accessible by everybody who's reading this text. And also very easily accessible. So if you know the Kannada lipi, as we know, can as accurately represent all of these sounds as Devanāgarī will do. Telugu is the same. So what if I wanted to read it in that lipi and not in Devanāgarī lipi or in Grantha lipi? We should be able to make it very freely accessible and remove that barrier. And of course, we should put all of this on modern infrastructure so that it is not only available, but it is also available in the right way. It's designed very well. It's pleasing to the eye. It's easy to read. All of these things are very, very important. And we know how all of this can work in consumer software. A lot of us have worked on that. So this is an effort to put both of them together. So what am I building here, or what are we building here? First of all, I have to mention and acknowledge the help that I've received from a lot of people. Specifically, there is a website called vedavms.in, and there are a few people behind that who had a corpus of information that I used as a basis for this. So I owe them a big debt of gratitude. So what I did was I started with the Taittirīya Śākhā of the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda. Again, for some of you who may be new to the Vedas in this call, there are 4 Vedas, as we say. There is Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvana Veda. But each Veda has different shakhas or branches. It's no different than how research happens in the modern world. So if you are researching on AI, for example, there are many different branches of AI, and there are many different schools of research. Pretty much every university, every company has its own research division, and the Vedas are the same. In India, in Bharatavarsha, for thousands and thousands of years, every rishi of note had their own shakha. And so the Taittiriya Rishi had a shakha of the Yajurveda, one of the flavors of the Yajurveda called the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda. The other flavor is called the Shukla Yajurveda. And there are multiple shakhas of this Veda. And the Taittiriya Śākhā is actually very widely practiced in Vedic traditions in South India, and that is the tradition that I come from. So I thought I should begin there. Although what we are trying to build here as easily expands to every other Shakha and every other Veda as well. So over time, hopefully, we can get there. So that is what we began with, which with all the parts of the Taittiriya Śākhā, the Samhita, the Brahmana, Aranyaka, the Upanishads. Again, just for the benefit of those who are new here, the Samhita are the core mantras. That is the Moolam, which is the core, which is the root of the Yajurveda or the Veda itself. And then, but then there are these texts called Brahmanas, which are actually prose explanations of rituals. So if you want to do a yajna, the Brahmana usually explains how to do a particular yajna, like the Soma Yaga or Vajpayee Yaga or whatever, Rajasuya Yajna. And then they refer to the parts of the Samhita for getting the mantra bhaga from them. And then, of course, there are philosophical treatises that are across the Aranyaka and the Upanishads. So these are also just texts. These are all just ways to split these Vedas so that it's easily consumable. Thousands of years ago, all of this was in just like one big corpus. And Bhagavan Vedavyasa came and split this thing into 4 different Vedas so that people could more easily read them and understand them. And since then, the Vedas have come in multiple shakhas. So this work just focuses on the Taittiriya Śākhā of the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda. So this is the core of the work that I've been able to do. So I'll spend a little bit of time on this slide. So essentially, like I said, a lot of people have already made this effort of trying to put the Veda online. But the effort has been splintered, and it is in various different sources. For example, one of the sources that I used is called this thing called Baraha. Baraha is a software that somebody in India wrote. It's a company in India that they wrote this so that you can represent Devanāgarī or Sanskrit in and write it in Latin text. So for example, if you wanted to say Namaste, you can say Namaste, and then it will transliterate that into Devanāgarī as the word Namaste. However, there was no standardization in this. Now Baraha has its own standard, and then there are many other standards like that. But then it so happens that there is an international standard called the ISO 15919. And this standard is a standard encoding for every Indian language. It can encode sounds in Devanāgarī or Sanskrit. It can encode sounds in Hindi, in Tamil, in Telugu, Marathi, Gujarati, Bengali, in every single language. And it provides the encoding to do this thing. So the first idea here was to represent the Vedas, the core of the corpus, in this ISO 15919 convention, so that once you do that, then it just becomes a matter of actually transliterating this into any language that you need. So the only thing you need to do is to maintain this entire corpus in this very standard encoding. So that was the first kind of unlock for this work. The second problem that we have is that if you have a bunch of text that is in a PDF, it has no structure behind it. It is very hard to search through that. It is very hard to organize it. It is very hard to comment on it. It is very hard to present different variations and different readabilities about it. So the other thing that we need to do, this is where we can bridge the software world with the world of with Vedas and representing it. So there is a way to structure data, and we know that it's actually very simple. There is a schematized version. A schema is just a representation of a particular piece of information. So we took the schema of what is called JSON and represented every part of the Veda, which is the Samhita has its own schema or representation, the Brahmana has its own representation, and so on and so forth. Because as you know, the Vedas are actually internally also split in similar ways. So you have a Samhita, which is split, the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda Taittirīya Śākhā is split into 7 kandas. And every kanda is like a big book, basically. And every book has multiple chapters or prashnas. And every prashna has multiple anuvakas or paragraphs, you can say. And every paragraph has multiple sentences or multiple big chunks which is called Panchashatis. So similarly, Vedas have a structure in themselves already. So this is not a new structure that we are assigning. It is just that we try to extract that structure from the Vedas and represent it in software in a form that can then be manipulated. And then once you have 1, 2, and 3 as part of your data pipeline, 4 becomes very easy. Now, once you have a structured way of representing this information, it becomes very easy for us to write a library to convert this standard representation into any language, any lipi that you want. So you can convert this structured JSON into Devanāgarī, and that's how you show it in the HTML. Or I can convert it into Kannada or Telugu or any lipi that you want. And the vision here is to convert it into every single Indian language possible, so that there is no barrier for anybody in India or anybody knowing any Indian language in accessing this information and learning from it. But initially, for my first step, I tried to sort of do this in Devanāgarī, Kannada, Telugu, and Grantha, these 4 scripts. The other problem that we have, so these are the main key features of the work that I've done. Again, the claim is not that this work is somehow groundbreaking. The claim is only that this work brings together multiple facets of how we have been representing information in this new information age and bring it to this corpus of information that is the Vedas. So multi-script display is an important thing. Full text search is another thing. It's very hard to search through PDFs. And how do you search through a PDF that is in Kannada? Do you have to type in Kannada to search it? So for example, if I want to search, if I want to learn the Rudram, and if I want to say, what is the 8th Tanuvaka in the Rudram, in the Namakam, and I want to get to the Namasomaya Rudraya, how can I easily search for it? There should be an easy way for me to get to those parts as a student. We should be able to generate good PDFs, and these PDFs should always be accurate to the latest representation and not be some stale version of this PDF. And it should have beautiful typography. It should be optimized for reading. And then the most important part is the expert review system. There are so many people in India today who are experts in the Yajurveda or other Vedas, and they're happy to help making corrections, but there is no easy way for them to contribute into this. And when they can contribute, we often see that these Vedic Pandits are much more, well-versed in the Vedas themselves, which is their primary job, but they're not very computer literate. So how would they actually come up with the typing up these ISO versions and all of this encoding, and all of this makes no sense for them. So I made it easy for them to just provide voice input. They can just say, hey, this part is wrong. Here there should be a Swarita instead of Anudatta. And then they can actually just say it. And then they can give us the feedback in that way. Or they can actually upload a photo from a book that they have been using, or a Grantha or a manuscript or some pramana, saying that this is the standard way of doing it. So getting feedback from people is actually sort of from these experts is one of the biggest changes that I've tried to make in this corpus. And finally, everything should be version controlled. Version control, again, is nothing new. This has been around for decades and decades in the software world. So what this does is it tracks every single change that we make to this corpus, and it makes it easy to go back and forth across these changes and merge these changes and make sure that always everybody on the planet looking at this website looks at the most accurate, the most recent information. So these are the key features. Of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about collaborative review. I'll also show a demo, because this is, I think, the most important part. Because when I was talking to the people at Veda VMS, they are very, very motivated. And in fact, they spend so much of their own personal time on this that it actually inspired me to do this work. But one of the biggest problems they had is, how will they get reviews from experts? They would go to a Vedic Pandit, and the Vedic Pandit is happy to help. But how is the Vedic Pandit going to send them corrections? They might write it down somewhere and they may send it, but it's very hard to accumulate all of them. It is very hard to organize all of it. And it is very hard to figure out who gave feedback on what. How can one expert see the feedback that the other expert has given? Again, all of these are already solved problems in software engineering, right? We just need to bring together these different domains so that we can benefit from the state of the art that we have in one domain into the other domain. So this is another thing that this offers. Now I want to do a live demo. I wonder if I can just share my screen. Let me see. Okay. Can I ask somebody if people can see the screen? Srinivas ji or somebody, can you confirm if you can see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen, Sridhar ji. Yes.
Okay. And can you see the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda Taittirīya Śākhā? I just want to make sure you're
Not
seeing.
yet. I think it's a live demo. That's what it says at the moment.
Okay, I see. So actually, I need to unshare this demo and share my screen. So I'm trying to share my screen. So maybe as an admin, you need to allow the screen share and remove the slide.
Okay, I will remove the previous slide share, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And then allow me to share the screen, which in my view, it already shows that I'm.
Oh yeah. Okay, I think probably I have to remove this one. This is one you want, right?
Yes, this is the one I want.
Okay.
So this is the website that I have developed. Hopefully everybody can see. This is currently hosted in like an unlisted way because the work is not complete. One of the things I was talking to Venkatji was, should I present this when the work is fully not complete yet? And he had a very good suggestion, because I do have an ask of a lot of you. So I thought it was good for me to produce or share the work that is still work in progress. But let's see through this and see. I want to demonstrate some of the features. So first of all, as I said, I am only starting with the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda Taittirīya Śākhā. And but because the data pipeline is agnostic of exactly what data is being shared, once it works for this Śākhā, this Veda, we can put any other corpus of text into it. So as we know, the Samhita is organized into multiple kandas. So each kanda is cleanly presented as this, including like a description of what this kanda is about. And let's go through some of the features. So first of all, it's just the readability of things. You can go into each of the prashna. The first kanda has 8 prashnas, and so all the 8 prashnas are here. And if you are a student, you can go and read it, which is pathanam, or you can actually look at a PDF if you don't have access to the internet or you just want to print it out. So let's go to read this one. So when it opens up, it actually gives you a good way to sort of navigate through this. And as you can see, like PDFs don't offer you this way, or at least it's not easy to do so. So for example, if I want to say, go to the 5th Anuvaka, which is Devo Vasavitotpunattvachidrena Pavitrena Vasasuryasya, this Anuvaka, I can easily just navigate to that and read this. And the fonts and the annotations are chosen specifically to improve readability in this thing. So this is just a basic functionality, which is, can you read this? Can you go through every single kanda and every single prashna? So you can just like click through and you can read whatever you want. You can easily see where you are in the order, in the prashna itself. There is a green bar that goes up that shows you how much of the prashna you have read. And of course, you can go through the Brahmana. Brahmana has 3 ashtakams, is what we call, and each ashtakam has multiple prapatakas or prashnas again, and you can go and read them. You can also, of course, access the PDF, like I said. So if you go to the PDF, it opens up this PDF. Hopefully you can see this thing. It opened in a different tab, so I think it's not presented here, but you can go and read the PDF as well. So now the benefits of doing this structured data are that you can now search. Hopefully you can see me searching through this. So if I, let us say, want to go through the 5th prashna, 8th Anuvaka, then I only need to type 4.5.8 and it tells me wherever this is possible. So you can go to the Samhita, which is the 4th kanda, 5th prashna, 8th Anuvaka, or you can go to the Aranyaka, which is the 4th Prapataka, 5th Anuvaka, and 8th Panchashati. So let's go to the Samhita page. And now you can see that it takes you to this place, Namas Somaya Charudraya Namastam, right? It's a very popular prashna, and it takes you there. Now you can actually, so this makes it very easy for us to navigate through that. This is the functionality you did not have, we did not have in just a pure representation in like a PDF. The other thing that I told you was that like I also want to enable this in every language, every lipi, and I can demonstrate now a few. So now you can drop this down and it shows you on the right side that there are 4 different languages that I currently support. So if you look at it in Kannada, so remember that the advantage of doing this is that this is getting translated in real time. So any change that I make to the original encoding will automatically translate into the change in any lipi. And since I happen to know how to read it, this seems fairly correct at this point. Now you can go to Telugu, because people read it in this lipi as well. And the Telugu lipi can represent Devanāgarī in very high fidelity. Or you can go to Grantham as well. I have been told that the Grantham encoding is actually not correct. And there are a few mistakes here. And I'll tell you why that's happening. And that is probably where I can use your help as well. But in the way that now we allow these 4 languages or these 4 lipis or scripts, or I want this drop down eventually to extend to pretty much every Indian language. So that is definitely the hope. Now, as I said, the key features of this are not just the fact that you can read and you can search. For example, search is another thing. So if I say, let us say I want to search for the Rudram, I can say Namaste Rudramanyava, and then this is the first result. Now, we can bring the current technology of search into this. So you guys have all been to Google or Bing or other search websites. And when you search through a corpus of information with some keywords, you can actually have relevance algorithms that rank them and bring the most accurate search to the top. So in this case, most likely in the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda, when you say Namaste Rudramanyava is indeed the top search result. And so if you click on it, it'll land you exactly where you want to go. These are also the advantages of making the text very structured and giving the schematization to the text here. Now, the biggest thing here, again, like I said, is preserving accuracy. That is one of the biggest goals. And let us see how to do that. So what we have done is actually allowed the ability for people to go and have logins here. So I could provide logins to people who are experts in the Vedas, and ask them to go and leave comments. Now, I actually, in order to just demonstrate this, I created a login for Venkatji and then provided an admin dashboard for myself. So when Venkatji goes and reviews something, it actually provides a dashboard view for me as an admin, or for a bunch of us who can be admins on this website. So first of all, the commenting experience is very simple. So you could say, as an example, you could select a piece of text, add a comment, and it says, you can say whether it's a swara issue, spelling issue, missing text, general comment, whatever you want to say. And you could describe this thing saying, this seems correct. Or you can provide any other suggested text. And then here is the idea of providing a voice note. For people who are Vedic Pandits who are not computer literate, they can just click the voice note and they can add a voice note. They can actually say, just describe the change that they want to do instead of typing the text itself here, which they may not have the skills to do. Or they can actually write this down in a piece of paper and actually upload a picture and tell me that this is basically what the correction is. And then as people are reviewing this, they can, when they go through this website, they will have like how Google Docs has this, they will have a set of comments that shows up on the right on this panel. So everybody could see the comments that other people are leaving. And so the problem of one reviewer not knowing what other reviewers are doing is fixed here. Again, this is not a brainwave. There is nothing groundbreaking about this. Everybody who has used an online document system has used this before. It is just that we are bringing the state of the art or the technology from one domain to the other domain. And that's the value add here. Also, people who are administrators to this website, and I would love for other people to help me with this, can go to the admin dashboard and see what all corrections have been submitted. So in this case, Venkatji has submitted 2 corrections as an example. And let's go into this and see what he's done. So for example, he corrected the first Prapataka of the Aranyaka. And he basically said that this Grantha Lipi is not correct. And this is basically the attachment. He took a picture from somewhere where it is correct. And this was his way of providing a correction. So we can add some admin notes saying that get to this later and save the notes for later, right? So that I have a reference. Or in this case, he has just given a suggested text. In this case, he was correct that in this Prapataka, we need to have a Shantipatha, which was not there in this case. And Venkatji suggested that we should add this. So anytime you go into this, it tells you exactly where the change was made or suggested. It's this page. This is the author. It is exactly this Panchashati, this Anuvaka. So It's very, very easy in this case to pinpoint where the corrections are going. And so we can, as the admin, you can choose to sort of say, well, this one is in review right now, right? And then I can go filter everything that is in review, or I can see what all I have already fixed, right? So I can say what all changes have been resolved already. So these were the changes that were resolved, and so on and so forth. Again, I want to say this again and again, that none of this is, completely novel in itself. It is just that we are bringing one piece of technology to the other, and the sum of the two, actually, it's like we are achieving this 1 + 1 = 3 kind of a thing. So these are some of the advantages of this. And then, of course, you can do other kinds of searches, and this becomes very interesting. So you can say something like, let's say, where all in this corpus do I have Vishnu, this word, right? So, and then it'll give you a lot of hits. So this is like a Google search page. So it just searches through all of the corpus of information, and then you can get to what you want to do. You also don't need to know how to type Devanagari's text in order to search. You can just search, as I'm doing now, in like Latin text. You can say, let us say I want to search for where the upayamagrihitosi. So you can just search like that. You can search for half a term or any part of it that you remember, and then you will get all of the search results. Again, anybody who's used a search engine already knows this, but this had never been applied to the Vedas, and that is the advantage this brings. So this is basically a quick sort of demonstration of it. Now I'm going to stop this screen and again go back to my slides. Srinivasji, can you pull up the slides again? I can see that there are many questions. I'll get to the questions in just a little bit, but let me finish the slides. So again, I'm not going to belabor this again. Basically, this approach works because we have structure, we have multiple scripts, we have expert-driven corrections. So imagine this: if we can get a few 50 or 100 Vedic experts, over time, this can become the most accurate representation of the Taittirīya Śākhā online. And then this is the path I have ahead for this project. So near term, I just want to make sure this corpus of information itself is complete. All of the kandas, the ashtakas, prapatakas, everything like that. So for example, I don't have the kataka or the ekagni kandam still in this thing, but I'm going to put all of them there. The second is we can expand this not only to the samhita pata, but to pada, krama, jata, and all the way to ghana. And then we can expand to all the Bharatiya lipis. We can provide audio recordings. So if people want to learn how to recite this stuff, we can have an expert do the recitation and synchronize the audio with the text, so that it's almost like karaoke. As the audio is playing, you can look at the text and then it will keep synchronized with the recording. And of course, because software does not care about exactly what the backing data is, we can just start with the Yajurveda, as I have done here, and then expand to every other Veda and every Sukta, every Stotra. If once we can prove that the technology works with one corpus, it can work with every other corpus. And of course, right now, I just put it in my own website as an unlisted part. But once this work is complete, I plan to spin it off in its own domain and maintain it so that people can access it for free. I'll say the final this thing and then go back to the questions that are in the chat channel. So how can you help? Of course, even in the work that I've done right now, I've received a lot of help from other people, which I'm very grateful for. For example, the Veda VMS people provided, the initial set of corpus for me that I used as a basis to build this stuff. So if you want to be a reviewer, if you have done Veda Dhyanam, and if you would like to help do corrections here, please let me know, and I can add you as a reviewer to this website so you can go make corrections for me. If you are a font designer, so this is one very good example. So when I looked at the Telugu and Kannada fonts, they are good and they are correct, but they are not very readable. There aren't so many Telugu fonts. There aren't so many Kannada fonts that support the Vedic accents. And font designing is its own field. So typically, you would have to pay font designers so that they will go build a typography for you. And I think we, as a community, should actually do this. Otherwise, there won't be very good ways of representing this corpus of information in different languages. So if you are a font designer or if you know font designers, please get me in touch with them. I would love to work with them to create new fonts for different Indian languages. And of course, all the features that I mentioned, like audio syncing and the other pathas, etc. If you are either a developer or if you want to be a technical contributor, please contact me. The code is in GitHub. I will open up the code for anybody who's willing to contribute. And of course, once this is slightly more complete, I will open up the website itself so that all the students can look at it and give me feedback about like how to improve readability and navigation even further. So that was it. Let me get to all the questions on the chat channel. So the first question is, to make it more accessible, especially for the next generation, is there a plan for Roman Lipi? This is a very good question, actually. So I think the question is that, like, yes, it's fine that all of this is in Devanāgarī and Kannada and Telugu, but if you look at like some of the generations now that are growing up outside of India, they are not able to read these languages. Can we just present them in the Roman Lipi? It is not something that I had thought about because my express effort was to actually make sure that like Indian languages can be represented more. But this should be very easy to do as well because, as I said, the main encoding is indeed in ISO 15919, which very closely resembles regular English or Latin alphabet. So we should be able to add that itself as another form. So this is very good feedback. Thank you. The third question is, can we have audio attached or linked for each question? Yes, absolutely. This is one of the goals here. But for this, we first need an accurate representation in text, which is going to take a little bit of time. Once that is there, there are so many Vedic Pandits who are very happy to provide their recension or their recitation of this. And once they do that, we can do the job of synchronizing audio to a piece of text. So not only we attach audio to a particular prashna or to a particular chapter, we can make it such that as people scroll through, the audio also synchronizes with the text. So that's definitely doable in terms of technology, and it's one of the goals of this project long term. The fourth question is, are translations for comments possible? An expert may be Tamil, but looking at the comment from expert in Telugu. This is a very good point. Actually, recently there was an AI summit in India, and one of the companies in India called Sarvam AI is doing an amazing job of taking one language and translating that into another language in real time and preserving even the intonation. So it's definitely possible with the technology and with AI. Although I had not thought about this feature, so that's a very good point. The other thing that comes up here is essentially what we've been talking about for so long. We really have to start thinking about how we take technology from one domain, like software or AI, and apply it to the other. And this question is just emblematic of how we can do it. Language should never be the barrier in people accessing information. The other question is, can I search by voice? Not yet. Actually, this might be hard because first you have to take the voice, then transliterate that voice or translate that voice into text and then feed that into search. Technically, it should be possible, but this is not one of the currently planned features. Currently, my first goal is to make sure there is accuracy and there is completeness. And the second goal is to sort of do the other things that we have talked about, but this seems to be something that's an advanced feature that we can add later. There is another question. Is there a plan to provide meaning to the Anuvakas? I know it's a huge task, but it'll be very useful for all the Veda Abhimanis and for all those who want to know what the mantras mean. This is very correct, actually. So in fact, there is a shloka that actually kind of says, who is a real Vedic student? And it lists out 6 characteristics. So for example, it says that somebody who reads the Vedas but goes very fast is actually not really accurate. Somebody who actually needs a book in order to read and who hasn't done enough practice that they already know it by heart, so that's not a great student. So it actually describes the characteristics of what's not a great student of the Vedas. One of those characteristics or one of those attributes is also somebody who does not know the meaning of what they're reading. So of course, I think this is probably one of the most important and interesting things we can do. And in the similar way that we are enabling commenting, we can enable this as well. There are already many bhashyas available. So Shankara Bhashyam is there is Sayana Bhashyam, and they all already have a bhashyam for every Anuvaka or every Prashna of the Vedas, and we should be able to link them. It's actually a very, very good suggestion. I'll see how best to enable that. The other comment is, it says, amazing portal, digitalizing the Vedas, kudos. One part of the Veda is Gurumukha. Are there plans to enable experts to upload the exact recording so that it ensures accuracy while learning? Yes, I think like we just talked about this in as part of the other question. The Vedas are an oral tradition. In fact, the Vedas are the oldest oral tradition in the entire planet, and also not an oral tradition that is entirely lossless, right? When today we read the Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda or any Veda, you can be certain that you are actually reading the exact same thing to the last word, to the last swara, to the last intonation. That's, somebody thousands of years ago was reading in India. So the oral recension is actually a feature. The oral recension is the oral transmission of this information is not because they didn't have a way to write it down. The oral transmission of this information is because they thought that was the most accurate way of preserving this knowledge. That is something for all of us to realize as we read the Vedas. And yes, absolutely. I think that providing, the actual audio in addition to this text should be a feature that we will support. And finally, it says, please let us know the prerequisites before going through Veda Abhyasam. Mostly, how can this be leveraged for people who doesn't have Sandhya Vandanadhikaram? I think that the one thing I would like to say here is that the Vedas are for Lokakshemam. So yes, in the same way that like if you have to go, into medical school and if you want to become a doctor, so there are some steps that you have to take. You have to get qualified for it. So you have to have Brahmopadesham in order for you to get qualified to read the Vedas. So, but the Vedas are always a quest for knowledge. So I'm pretty sure that everybody can do it. In a specific circumstance, I'm not qualified enough to say, how can you actually get to that point where you can actually get the qualification to go read the Vedas? But I'm sure that like there are lots of Vedic scholars who can provide much better information on that one. But there is one thing that I hold true, which is that the Vedas are indeed for everybody, which is why it is said that even when people who have done complete Veda Dhyanam, and if they are doing a Veda Parayanam every day, it is not just for their own benefit. The fact that they benefit from it is actually a side effect of them reading the Vedas. The fact that when they read the Vedas or when they do the Parayana of the Vedas, it actually helps the whole world, and for Lokakshemam. So it is definitely for everybody. Are intonations also encoded here? Yes, absolutely, they are encoded there. Actually, maybe I can go back to the portal to show this. Srinivas ji, I'm going to switch back into that. Yes, so if you can see here, so this one is regular Devanāgarī, right? So this seems like something written in Sanskrit or Hindi. These are just words, Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda Taittirīya Śākhā. But once you go into this one, you can actually see these annotations. There is this line underneath is called the Anudatta, and this line up there is called the Swarita. And then if you see two lines here, for example, here, this has two lines on top, that is called the Dirgha Swarita. So these are all annotations that we have. And these annotations come from the ISO 15919 standard. So the standard actually allows for these annotations to be encoded. And that is what is getting translated here in Devanāgarī. So if you look at this, let us say in Kannada, these annotations are preserved. So if you see this Anudatta is preserved, this Swarita is preserved, this Swarita is preserved. So all of these things are preserved with a high degree of fidelity. That is the promise here. So here's the Dirgha Swarita on the way here, etc. Not only that, but like there are some symbols that represent sounds that usually occur in Vedic Sanskrit that is not there in regular Sanskrit. For example, this symbol here, which is a little bit like a Chandra Bindu, it says this symbol is pronounced gum. So for example, you can say vi bhayagum ruhema. So that gum sound is encoded by this symbol. And then there are other symbols also similarly, which are typical of Vedic Sanskrit and are not there in other kinds of regular Sanskrit, which are also which find themselves here. So yes, the answer is that we do preserve the annotations, and they are also encoded. Okay, if there are any other questions that I have not seen, Srinivas ji or Venkat ji should let me know.
I think those are the questions I could see.
Okay.
Srinivas ji, you're on mute.
Beautiful, Sridharji. What a sophisticated work that you are doing. This has been in my heart for a long time, but I'm not a techie, right? So you put together really a beautiful thing that for the for the coming generations is very, very important. As a Veda student and as a Veda teacher and as well as a Veda Abhimani, I'm happy to contribute in whatever the way that that I could. I think this is a very, very good information that people will appreciate that. And this is one of the ways that actually we can preserve the rich Veda texts and accuracy and with the meaning and all the stuff and so on. Oh my God. That's going to go a long way too. But I would like to also add that point going back to the, and it's very, very, I would say that, who's qualified to learn and so on. But take it in a good sense, please. Okay. So there are layers. People ask me questions. I taught so many students in Seattle area, about 40, 50 students with them. And some people approach me, can I learn or something like that? Or would you teach me? And those kind of things. Not everyone should be like planning on actually learning and recitation. Let's take, for example, I'm interested in being a doctor. Do I have to actually go to, I cannot go to medicine school, whatever may be. I'm disqualified. I don't have the qualifications, studied hard and so on. So does it prevent me from actually learning a little bit? How do you get migraine? How do you take care of your fever? How do you take care of whatever that may be ailments? Can you become actually a good medical knowledge person? Absolutely. So I would say the layer one, chanting part of it, Guru Mukhena, it comes with so many responsibility, when to chant, when not to chant, and what to chant, how to chant. So many do's and don'ts come with actually learning the Vedic chanting part of it. Second layer would be, can you read the meaning? Absolutely. In that term, what Sridhar is said is, it's accessible to all. Knowledge is accessible to all. You can get that information also. You can see, he read the Bhashyam. You can take take lessons from gurus only on the meaning part of it also. So there are several layers associated with that one. People should not be focusing on, yes, I do not have the Yajnapavitam. I did not take the, did not have the Upanayana Samskaram. So I'm not qualified to, how can I challenge, why can't I do that one? Because even though I'm not qualified to, or maybe, as per the Varna, Shrama, Dharma and so on too. So that if you go in that direction, it's kind of more like a disrespect into the rules that we have been established by, not for by us, by our Purvacharyas and so on too. So one of the ways that we say respecting gurus, and as it first slogan, these rules are not set by XYZ, set by all the Purvacharyas going to Saptarshis or beyond that and so on too. So we need to honor that one. But again, that's one aspect of it. But it's a loaded question. It is also loaded discussion that we need to take it in a good spirit, and we can continue to have this conversation. So Venkatji, I would like you to add a few pieces, then we'll go to the next level.
Yeah, on behalf of Seattle Veda Parishad, I really want to give a big kudos, applause to Sridhar Iyer for all the amazing, the tremendous effort that Sridhar has volunteered and put in for the benefit of the welfare of everyone, and for enabling the Vedic learning not only for our generation but also to take it forward to the future generation. So this is a real future forward thinking, and I think like Sridhar, all of us should actually put in our efforts to see how we can not only preserve and sustain, but also pass on our Sanatanic dharmic values to our next generation all over the world. So leveraging the current technology, how we can actually make it accessible and being able to be usable for the generation is what Sridhar has demonstrated here. So again, I like to thank Sridhar on everyone's behalf. And this is only a beginning. So Sridhar needs all of our support, like he explained during his presentation. I think let us all give the commitment of ourselves to see that how is that we can help in his journey in actually taking it forward, and not only just limiting to the Taittirīya Śākhā of Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda, but this can definitely be expanded to all the Veda Śākhās and all the other lipis and other languages also available, because it is each of our responsibility to make sure that, this is made available to our next generations. in the way that they are able to consume, we are able to practice. Because like Sridhar explained during one of the answers to one of the questions, the chanting is not just the benefit to only the chanter, but it's for the entire universe. So now, going forward, I mean, one request that I have is, thanks to Srinivas ji for actually enabling this Veda Parishad, and I'm sure we have more scholars and we have more knowledge within our group, and so please spread the word and then see, who would like to volunteer for the upcoming sessions with the topics that can be beneficial to the community. Because I'm sure, this is only we are the tip of the iceberg, I would say. Yes, there is a lot more work that each of us can come together and do. And again, this online session is also another proof that yes, you leveraging technology, we sitting wherever we are, whichever part of the globe we are in, we are still able to connect each other and we are able to discuss. So let us use what we have currently, and then let us try to come together and then being able to discuss more of these, and then see how is it that we can actually do something that is beneficial to the community as a whole. So with that said, I really want to thank you, Srinivas Garu, for enabling this session, and thank you to Pandit Mahesh ji for giving us this opportunity through my Panchang for being able to stream live. Thank you, Sridhar, again for this opportunity, and thank you all for taking your time and joining this session.
Yeah, I think thanks, Venkat. The beautiful words, actually, it means a lot, and as well, it's a blessing to have Sridhar ji in our community. I think, Sridhar, you may have time to answer. A couple of questions are there, I think, here. Could you also talk about the encoding in India? I know you can see the question, right? That question, where is the research done on similar projects earlier and so on?
Let me see. It's in the WhatsApp channel.
Yes, I think it's also in the comment thread. It said where there is a research where there are research done on similar projects earlier. What is the current well-known sources today? That is one question. And then also, could you also talk about the encoding in detail? It is beyond just Unicode text.
Yeah. So I'll answer the second question first. So the encoding is not in Unicode. The encoding is in the standard that I mentioned in the slide. It's called ISO 15919. So there are a lot of these standards in the current world. So there's so many ways of just saying, here's the way to encode something. So and it's just an international standard that people just by convention agree to. And ISO 15919 happens to be the international standard for that encompasses all of Indian languages, not just Sanskrit. For example, there used to be another standard called IAST. It's still a standard. It's called International Alphabet of Sanskrit Transliteration or something. But everything has some pros and cons. The ISO 15919 is the most recent standard and the most widely accepted one at the moment. So it is not Unicode. Unicode is actually sort of a representation of sort of text in a particular way, which every letter that you see online has some Unicode, code point that backs it. But this standard is not Unicode. It is ISO 15919. The other question was what are the other research done in similar projects? What's the current well-known sources? There are many. In fact, I'm not the first person to have had this issue or to have wanted to solve this problem. Many people have done it. If you can just go and search online for Taittirīya Śākhā or Kṛṣṇa Yajurveda, you will automatically get so many results on Bing or Google that lead you to other work that has been done. But like I said, every work has had some pros and cons. They have always advanced, the state of the art of how we represent this, but they also have had some drawbacks. I think vedavms.in is actually a website that, I currently feel has a lot of information. They have so many different documents, and many of us actually use that. So that I would say that that's one of those things, one of the current well-known source as of today. Yes. Any other questions, Srinivas Garu?
I think we're good. I think that's great appreciation comes from Sriman Paddy Iyengar, who's also one of the groups in our group 2. Again, as you can see in the comments, and appreciations are pouring in. It's amazing that we'll do one online like this once a month and one in person. Okay, I think that way we have 2 platforms going on. But if people have the capacity, they want to do every week something like that. Also, we encourage that one, so to be able to learn together and grow together. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Let's close with Sahana Bhavatu.
Yeah.
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 Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ
Dhanyosmi to all the participants also. Your participation makes a huge difference. Okay, we'll see you in person next month. Yes. Play outro and then end the stream. Stay in the studio until the auto video finishes playing on the bogus. May not.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.